essentially what we're dealing with is a sand island, okay, and it's one of about half a dozen pā on the lower reaches of the Kaituna, and it's a remnant dune system, so it's raised slightly above the surrounding wetland. This would have been all flax swampland essentially surrounding it, so it's an important piece of land geographically.
We have had the privilege of working on this particular site here, Otaiparia. This is like a transient site where the old people would come through, gather shellfish and stay in this particular area for maybe a month, eating, drying, probably preserving the food, and then moving on. The following year, maybe a few years later, they would come back, use the same site again. So it's a site that's been used over and over again. A word I like to use is Ngatoroirangi, which means nomadic way of life. So that's what these people probably were.
What we've got here is a little snippet of life at Otaiparia. What we're finding is garden soil adjacent to the swamp, possibly a strip of gardening along here. Then we've got large areas that are relatively open that may also be some sort of cultivation area, we're not sure. We've got pens over there or barriers, and over here we've got a really intense area of cooking. Each of these wooden pegs indicates the location of either a hearth or a post hole or some other feature. Every single feature is excavated and recorded and numbered, and then it's mapped on an overall plan so we can get an idea of the spatial layout of the site. So in this area we've got lots of intercutting irregular pit features which we're interpreting as some sort of cooking umu. And on top of that we've got little hearths where they've been cooking steaming shellfish, and you can see here's one that is yet to be excavated, which is probably just a large open hearth where they've been processing shellfish. As I say, most of it's ocean beach species, it's triangle shell, tuatua, a little bit of ostrich foot. Nothing that appears to come from the Maketu Estuary, so no sort of estuarine species like pipi or cockle. We've got hangistone caches everywhere. We've got a lot of hangistone through the mixed soil, a little secreted area where they've stored hangistone for a later date. And we'll look at where those stones came from, potentially Maketu, which is a major source. There's not a lot of shellfish processing here. It seems to be quite incidental. It's certainly going on, but we suspect it's more to do with cooking crops in an umu scenario. Because of the intensity and the intercutting of features that don't seem to go beyond certain parameters, it may have been within an enclosure or even within a building, but we haven't found evidence of a superstructure. Once we've excavated and worked out every feature, we take samples and take them back for analysis, and we'll look at the shell. We'll take samples of the charcoal, all the micro charcoal pieces, to see what sort of vegetation they were using in the cooking process that may indicate what the local environment was like, whether it was covered in manuka or whether they're sourcing wood from other areas. And we'll also take some soil samples to see if we can't pick up any microfaunal evidence of what they were actually cooking, whether we can find tumour starch or evidence of taro or gourd or yam or even potato. A few artefacts, probably a few dozen pieces of obsidian. They were used as a general cutting tool for all sorts of things, whether it was working bone, making artefacts out of bone, whether it was butchering fish, working flax. So they're very common, but they are usually a good indicator that we're dealing with a pre-European site, because they were phased out very quickly on European arrival. A lot of the traditional histories of the area is that some of these sites were fishing camps. Some of them were occupied during the flax mill industry when that took off in the early 1800s, and abandonment in the 1830s. But potentially these sites were occupied for hundreds of years, and whether that was continuous, it doesn't appear so here, but that's what you'd expect. You expect people to come come and go as the resources are exhausted.
The stories that we have of our tupuna is exactly what's been told by Cameron, our archaeologist, and we just refreshed his memory over everything that he's told us, and it's very good that he knows, he's had the knowledge to know what happened here over the last 150 years.
So once we're finished excavating, all our excavation holes will be backfilled with clean sand, so that it differentiates the cultural component of the feature, and then be covered in a geotech fabric. Anybody wanted to come back in later years to excavate more, if there's outstanding questions after we've finished our excavation, and that potential is always there if we protect it and cover it up.